Hi there, welcome to you all for the Year 11 Information Evening. This is Miss Miller, Deputy Head Teacher here at Wallingford School, where I'm going to really focus on our school motto of able and qualified, and looking at the year ahead for Year 11s and the sort of support that you might expect from us as a school for your young person, but also how we would ask you to support your young people as well. So by way of introduction, the Year 11 team is made up of Mrs. Pike as Head of Year and also myself as Deputy Head Teacher, looking at the standards, so the qualifications that young people are getting here at the school. There's also the tutor team, who you will know very well by now, I'm sure, and you can contact any of us so that we can help you. There's also another group of people that work with our Year 11 students. Mrs. Atkins, our school Senko, Mrs. Ward, who is our careers advisor. Many of you will know her from the Year 9 options process, and she'll be heavily involved this year in supporting all of our students with their post-16 pathways, and you'll have more information about that as the year goes on. And also Miss Forno, who is our school health nurse, and she'll be involved in some of the work through the PSE programme that students complete, and also she works with some students one-to-one throughout the year as well. So in terms of what we're going to cover, we are going to talk about able and qualified and what we mean by that. There's going to be a large focus on the qualified part because there is a large focus in Year 11 on getting our young people well qualified and equipped for their post-16 pathways. But I am also going to focus on the able part as well, because that is equally as important. So this is what we are aiming for. So we're aiming for your children to leave us really, really happy, both with the results that they have achieved, and this is what the photos are showing you. This is from results day a couple of years ago, but we do also want them to be able, and what we mean here at Wallingford by able is we want them to go out into the world as decent young people, which they certainly are. They are a fantastic year group. I gave them an assembly last week, and as I stood there in front of them and I looked out in the hall, I just thought, what a great bunch of young people. They are caring, they are enthusiastic, they understand their part to play in the world, as is demonstrated by that huge amount of money that they raised on the sponsored walk, so over £21,000. And we want to give them opportunities here, enrichment opportunities, and we're really hopeful this year that we will be able to run things slightly differently. The fact that we could have a face-to-face session for this event, we're hopeful that we're going to get trips and visits out as well. So that's the kind of able part, and then qualified that I will focus on now. In terms of grades, hopefully you're fairly familiar with this idea of a numerical grade for the GCSE, but I have included that bottom row there that shows you equivalent to the kind of old style GCSE grade of letters, where most people are quite comfortable, I think, with thinking that a grade C is a pass. So you can see here on this table that a grade 4 is what we consider a pass, and a grade 5 is what we consider a strong pass. Okay, so there is going to be a lot of focus, particularly in terms of English and maths, and making sure that we get as many students whose target suggests that they should be aiming for it, we get them that grade 4 and above. And also that we're working with those students for whom targets are 1, 2s and 3s, that we're making sure that we've got them as many kind of additional entry-level style qualifications to support them in their post-16 journeys as well. And vocational qualifications are measured in a slightly different way. So the pass merit distinction and distinction star is what you'll be looking at for those BTEC and technical award qualifications that some students are also studying. And it's probably an important moment to mention a few things. This is something that we'll talk to your children a lot about this year when they're thinking about sixth form or apprenticeships, but we will talk to them a lot about English and maths. There is a real focus on both of those subjects. They do underpin a lot of the other subjects, and so passing them has knock-on consequences of often being able to pass other subjects as well, and it is what employers still very much look at. They look at the grades that people have got in English and maths, so we know it's really important for young people to get as good a grades as they can in those subjects. Moving beyond this kind of year 11 year, so into sixth form years, if you are qualifying at the end of this year with 4s and 5s, then you'd be thinking about studying BTECs, and 6s and above would put you in a position where you might think about taking A levels. And I think that's important to know now, so you can be thinking about what the post-16 pathways might be. Other things to consider as the year goes on: what about those subjects that I didn't study at GCSE? Maybe completely new subjects. So, for us as a school, things like sociology, government and politics, there's some more. And additionally, what about something that we offer at GCSE, but you would maybe consider taking at post-16, even though you didn't take it lower down the school? So, these are all things to kind of bear in mind in terms of that post-16 journey. Whether other colleges might offer things that you are really interested in studying. We would love to keep as many students as possible here at Wallingford, but we know that it might be appropriate for your young people to go elsewhere as well. And then also thinking about, well, what if I don't get 4s? I mentioned earlier about students getting 1, 2s and 3s, and the fact that we are looking now to get additional qualifications to support them. We have a very strong access programme here in the sixth form that everybody is welcome to stay here and study as well, so plenty of pathways for all of our students. And I'm not going to talk you through all of these dates. I've just included it so that you can come back and refer to it as you wish, but to show you that there is a lot of reporting back of progress, of mock results, parents' evenings during the year as well. So a lot of contact between us and hopefully you. But obviously, if you have any concerns, just, you don't need to wait until the next progress report or the next parents' evening. Do just get in touch so that we can help you as well. And then we're all kind of looking forward or working towards this Thursday the 18th of August for the results day. And certainly I know that Friday the 6th of May, that will be a highlight for young people, so the celebration day and the ball in the evening as well. So some dates for your diary here. Okay, I mentioned that I delivered an assembly last week to Year 11, and one of the things that I really focused on was this idea of success and what people see, and the fact that you might see those photos of young people really happy and you see that success, but what you haven't seen is all the stuff that goes on underneath. I talked a bit to them about dedication, hard work, discipline, but what I really focused on was this idea of failure, this idea of disappointment, and the fact that we need to then go back to the beginning and be persistent and dedicated and put in hard work and be disciplined. And I think it's really important mentioning, because we see so often the knocks that young people get when they get a grade that is slightly lower than they were hoping for in a mock exam, or if they don't quite understand how to complete a homework. And what I stressed to students was how normal it is to find things difficult, to make mistakes, to be disappointed along the way, and how it's part of the kind of learning process. And actually, as a teacher, I find it more useful to know what my students can't do than to know what they can do, because then I can shape my lessons, my interventions, the homework, the revision strategies. I can make it really bespoke and meet the needs of the people I've got in front of me. So actually, to kind of see it as an opportunity, if you have got a lower grade than you wanted to somewhere along the lines, it's an opportunity for your teachers to help support you and build you up for success. And that we've got no reason to believe that the young people that we have in Year 11 this year are not going to do equally as well as previous years have. In fact, the data for this year group is really strong, and despite the disruption that they have had to the last 2 years of learning, they have clearly worked incredibly hard, because they are in a very similar place to the last year group that we had who were externally examined. So, a lot to be very positive about. And on that theme of it's normal to find things difficult, it's also normal to forget things. And I did focus in assembly a lot on this graph because I think it shows quite concisely a lot of research that has gone into forgetting, and it tells us a few things that we can do in order to make sure that we overcome forgetting. So what this is telling us is that when students go into a lesson and they're working hard in the lesson and completing set work, they learn something. But almost as soon as they walk out of the lesson, they probably forget quite a lot of it. So, roughly, let's say half. Then when they complete maybe their homework or their first revision on it, they remember it again, or they learn it again, and they still forget it, maybe a tiny bit less. So they retain a little bit more. But the powerful bit about this graph is what happens when you revisit that topic again. So when you then revisit it for a second time, you do still forget some, but it takes you longer to forget a smaller amount. And then the third time, you can see the power of revisiting because you're almost at the level of remembering all of it. So I was explaining to students last week, it's normal to forget. It's something that we all do. The way we overcome that is to keep revisiting topics. And a lot of research has gone into how to overcome the forgetting curve. 4 points coming up. The first is plan to revisit topics. We commonly call that revision. Okay, so there's a reason that we ask students to revise. It's because we know they will have forgotten, and revision that's well planned, and we'll talk about revision strategies in a minute. So well planned revision will help overcome this problem of forgetting. But do that shortly after you have originally learnt them. We help students to do that by setting homework. Okay, so homework is frequently something that we use to embed knowledge that has just been learnt, and increasingly through year 11 we will sneak extra little topics in of things that they first learnt in year 10 or year 9 or year 8 or year 7, and we will ask them to revisit it during that homework as well. So that's all to help overcome that forgetting curve. Space your learning. That's very important. There is no point in only doing maths for 2 weeks and then only doing geography for a week after that. All the research says space all the topics out, space your subjects out. It's called interleaving, and it's a really good technique to help your mind to file things, to put things in the right place in your learning memory and embed it in your long-term working memory. And then the fourth point is a very fancy way of saying that you should avoid distractions. So if you have your phone out, or the TV on, or music on, or if it's a noisy place in the house, your cognitive load is increased, and that prevents you from learning new material or revisiting old material. So really, it's a fancy way of me saying put your phone away, switch the music off. Go to your bedroom or the kitchen or somewhere that might be a quiet space for you to learn. And if you struggle to find a quiet space in your house, I certainly know in my house it's not very quiet. We do have a library here, and we are always very happy to have students stay after school if that is something that is helpful. So what should your child actually be doing? I cannot stress this first point enough. They must attend school regularly. There is a very direct link between those students who attend school regularly and those students who go on to do well. So they must attend school regularly, but whilst they're here and also at home, they should complete all the work to the best of their ability. Whilst there's a link between those who attend school regularly and do well, there's also a link between those who turn up but they're not actively engaged and then don't do well. So, whilst here and at home when doing work, active engagement with that work. Ensure that all coursework is completed and handed in on time, and that's not me being awkward. We would love to give feedback to students even if they hand work in late, but unfortunately exam board regulations prevent us sometimes from doing that. So it is really important that they meet deadlines because we want to give them feedback so that they can improve. So please do encourage your child to meet deadlines. We'd ask them to take part in any intervention or revision activities. It's very well crafted. We talk to subject teachers regularly. When we ask young people to come to interventions, we might ask them to come to all of them, some of them. It will be specific to individual students, and we've asked them to come for a reason. It's to support them and to make sure that they can do really well. So we would ask that your young people take part in those activities. And they must revise and try their best for mock exams. It goes back to that idea of failure. I know why some students say, I'm just not going to bother because I don't want to do badly. But actually it's not very helpful to teachers if what they're seeing is a reflection of, I didn't revise. What we need to see is a reflection of, I revised and I didn't understand this. That means that we can then focus our time and energy and efforts on supporting each child in the areas that they didn't understand. That's really, really important information that we're going to get from the mock exams. And I really encouraged children in the assembly to talk to us if things are not going according to plan. I shared with them quite a number of people that they could talk to. I've shared with you some of those people as well. I introduced them to some of the sixth form ambassadors that I explained that they will be in lessons, they will be around at break times. There's always somebody to talk to and tell if there is a problem. I did mention I would talk a little bit about revision strategies. I'm mindful in this recording of it ending up being a very long recording, so I'll kind of let you refer to this in your own time. There's three main strands to it, but really the first strand is about setting yourself up for revision, so that idea of reducing your cognitive load, making sure that you have got your timetable, that you know what you're doing, and we'll be supporting students with that shortly through the PSE programme. Then the next strand is about doing the revision. A few things to kind of pull out from this. I would talk about this idea of actively revisiting things. It's no use just sitting there and kidding yourself that you're doing the revision because you're sat at a desk. You need to actively be doing something. So that might be that you're answering questions, it might be that you're reading through something and making notes, it might be that you're quizzing yourself, or somebody is quizzing you. You might be on a website that teachers have asked you to go on, but it has to be active. And I would say as well, make a note of anything that you don't understand so that we can pick it up in school. And then there are a few things to avoid. Long study sessions, there's no point in that. Definitely avoid kind of whole day study sessions. Most people cannot concentrate for much longer than somewhere between 20 and 40 minutes without varying the activity. So really short 20 minutes on maths, followed by switching to another subject for 20 minutes, followed by 15 minutes, like a cup of tea and a biscuit, before you then maybe go and do another 40 minutes split in a similar way. But don't make yourself overly tired because you won't retain the information. But the one thing I really want to stress here is this idea at the top. Try to avoid worrying about how everyone else is doing. People say all sorts of things, and I've seen young people almost spooked minutes before they've walked into an exam because they've been listening to what their peer group are saying. Just focus on yourself, and when you come out of the exam, that applies as well. Don't worry about what everyone else is saying is the right answer or the wrong answer. They don't actually know, and you'll get your results, your feedback in good time, and often we find young people are quite surprised and actually feel much better once they get the results. So that's one to try and avoid. And on this topic of revision, to reassure you, there's going to be frequent information coming out to you as parents about different strategies that your child might want to try that you can support with at home as well. There's going to be a revision programme put in place both for whilst children are in school, but also things they should be doing outside of school, and we're going to talk about good habits and revision strategies with young people regularly as well. But we know it's not just about exam results. So I started at the beginning by talking about what we mean by able and qualified, and we also know that This year group, they're brilliant. They're great young people. They've had a lot of disruption. We want to find as many opportunities to celebrate their success and their time with us as possible. But we want to support them a lot in their post-16 pathways. We'd love them all to stay with us, but for some people it will be about us supporting them in getting an apprenticeship, or it might be supporting them in going to a different sixth form college. But the sixth form open evening will be coming up very shortly, and there'll be more information from that point onwards about post-16 pathways and the guidance that we'll be putting in place for young people. I mentioned the PSHE programme briefly. I talked about it in terms of revision, but there's a lot else that needs to be covered in PSE for young people, and we'll be covering quite a diverse range of topics through that programme as well. We're really hopeful that we're going to be able to run trips and visits this year, and that's something I certainly feel young people have missed out on over the last 18 months. So I think there are some Year 11 trips that are already lined up for Year 11 students to be going out on, so that's very exciting. Our extracurricular activity programme is going to be up and running very soon. I've heard there's lots of sports clubs that are going to be up and running, but I've heard murmurings of things like chess club, creative writing club. There'll be many more as well, so something to look out for. And obviously there's the Duke of Edinburgh Award that young people might want to start thinking about if they are joining us in the sixth form as well. And I did mention about celebrating success, so you'll have seen on that screen with all the important dates. Kind of key ones for Year 11 are the end of Year 11 celebration day and the ball, but there's also Founders Day as well, and I really hope we can have parents there and a really great atmosphere with all our Year 11 students there, so we can celebrate the end of Year 11 with you all. And finally, really to start finishing off, how you can support your child. There's lots of very obvious things that I'm going to say here, but I think it's worth reiterating. So make sure that they attend school regularly. We're here to help if that is a problem, but it's really, really important. Please help them to form good study habits. I think I suggested earlier on, come home. It's a good idea to have a bit of time to have a chat with your young person about what they've maybe done during the school day, have a cup of tea, a snack, but once a short period of time has passed, they should really then be focusing on their homework if they're not out at a club or something like that. Every student will have a different week in terms of their other commitments, so if you could help them get into good study habits, putting their phone away and getting straight on with things, not working late at night, then I think that's really important. Talk to them about what they're doing. I know teenagers are not always very forthcoming, but I promise you they definitely know that you are talking to them or that you're not. So do keep being persistent at trying to find out the bits of information. This is extremely important, and I cannot stress alongside the attendance side of things, the screen time. Please limit their screen time so that they can focus on when they are working, and it would be an even better idea if they didn't have any screens in their bedroom overnight. There are a number of students that we talk to who frequently tell us that they only had 4 or 5 hours sleep, and it's mainly because they've been up on their phone into the small hours of the night. So if you can get into the habit of leaving phones downstairs, that's brilliant. And it's not all about work, is it? So Year 11 is a stressful year. There's a lot of focus in Year 11, rightly so, on getting well qualified, but there also needs to be a focus on how to de-stress, how to look after your mental health, well-being of students. So please do encourage them to keep going with their clubs, to keep on seeing their friends, going on family trips. It's really important to keep all of that up as well. And if you've got any concerns about how your child is coping, then please do get in touch with us. And it's very important, as with everything as a parent, to be firm and consistent, and set those boundaries. Teenagers will push them, but they will definitely thank you for your firmness, your consistency in putting those boundaries in place this year. And then finally, do tell us if there is a problem. We want to work really closely with you. It's really important to us that your child has a successful year. And if there is something that's not quite going right, then please let us know so that we can put a plan in place together. And this is the end goal, as I mentioned at the start. So happy, smiling faces, great young people. We're halfway there because they are great young people, and the data shows us that they're definitely going in the right direction. So we're very much looking forward to working with our wonderful Year 11s this year. Thank you.